A lot of people are experiencing problems with talking to their governments and business elites. This problem is partially caused by a lack of empathy from the general public, who don't understand what it is like to rule over a nation of plebs. The thing to remember when speaking to the government and government elites is that we are just tax livestock to them, so whenever you tell them what you think, this is what they hear. Meh. Meh. Bah. Bah. I had a totally different video plan for today, but this morning I woke up grumpy. Grumpy because the dictatorship of Australia just got worse, with the government's emergency powers being given an extension from 6 months to 12 months. Hooray! Yay for Dictator Dan! So I thought I'd talk about a smorgasbord of mental health topics that relate to the government. Firstly, politicians are weird people, like crazy weird. Imagine that you go on a date with a woman or a man, whoever you are, and they tell you, I want to know how much you earn, right? I'm going to take half of what you currently earn and I'm going to spend it for you because I know better than you do what you want. Now, you might respond to your date by saying that, look, I may not know exactly what I want or what exactly is best for me, but I have a lot better idea than anyone else since, I have a personal stake in the matter. But she responds, not by backing down and saying, yeah, you're right, that's kind of crazy for me to tell you how to spend your own money, but by standing up and telling everyone in the restaurant that she needs to know what they all earn and they all need to pay her a fair share that she gets to decide for herself, to her to spend for them, so she can then tell them what kinds of cars they're allowed to drive, what kind of medical care they're allowed to have access to, what kind of education their children will have, what kinds of food they can eat, and which drugs they are allowed to have. Now, when the people in the restaurant laugh at her, she tells them to stop laughing, or she will spend some of their money to hire thugs with guns and threaten, imprison, and execute anyone who doesn't do as she says. Now, you're probably laughing at this example, but believe it or not, something very strange happens mathematically as we scale this up. One person telling one person how to live is just being controlling. One person telling 10 people how to live, that's being gangster. One person telling 100 people how to live, that's being a cultist. But one person telling 1 million or more people how to live is a politician and a great leader. Sorry. No. They're mad. They are actually mad because they honestly believe they have a right to rule over other people. But there's no such thing as a right to rule. There's only violence, threats of violence, and psychotic delusions of grandeur. So we have these crazy people, and they decide how much power they're allowed to have. They pass laws promising they won't ever use excessive force against people unless it is an emergency, and then only for a limited time. Then they pass more laws allowing them to have limitless powers whenever they like, regardless of what you want. People start pointing out that the government have broken a promise they made with the public, and that if you break a promise, like not paying a loan back or not showing up to work, you suffer consequences for failing to keep your promises. But when a politician breaks a promise, they keep their job and they even vote to give themselves a pay rise. If you try to arrest them and throw them into prison for breaking their promises, you discover that the police don't want to lose their jobs, so they're happy to shoot you and imprison you for trying to enforce the law. This is why when the military or police take over a government, there's no real improvement because the military and the police have no way of paying their income without continuing the government's organized mass theft called taxation. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, but that's crazy! We need government! This is madness! Taxes are necessary for a well-ordered society. Are you insane? Well, it's interesting that you might say that because the government are heavily involved in mental health, and they get more involved in mental health all the time. And it's not because they care about mental health, but they care about being able to define what mental health actually is. See, if the government keep using the police and violence and threats of violence to enforce compliance from the population, the taxed livestock, it kind of gives the game away as to what's going on. But if they can convince counsellors and psychologists and psychiatrists to tell people that it's crazy not to be pro-government and pro-taxes, and that you'd be mentally ill if you actually object to the government and don't trust the government, that works a lot better. It's a form of gaslighting where they keep telling you, like, no, not everyone's out to get you just because they burnt your house down and destroyed your car. I mean, it's just in your head. They really do care about you. They burnt your house down because they want to convince you that you're wrong in your beliefs. And now that you've seen what they're prepared to do, I'm sure you're going to do the right thing and change your beliefs. And so it's really insidious. It's quite disgusting to use this kind of thing, but that's exactly what they would do in any tyrannical regime if they don't outright kill you. It's just purely to silence you. And using the mental health profession to do it is a particularly nasty, clever way of doing it, because when people turn to a mental health professional, there's an assumption of trust, that this person I can trust and that they're going to give me good advice and good insight and feedback. And so by paying the income and salary or lining the pockets of mental health professionals, the government are giving them a financial incentive to gaslight their clients. So if you believe in the moral integrity of your profession as a psychologist or a therapist, then you should do what I've done and cut all financial links to the government, because it is a way that they will use to control you and subvert you, and you will not be able to perform your practice. And there are actually lots of other examples about that, and I'll go into that another time. But let's just move on to the next topic. Self-respect is a key pillar of mental health. The core of self-respect is living a just, honourable life, and at the end of the day being able to tell yourself that you earned everything that you have. You cannot get self-respect from being given a job out of pity, only through earning a job. You cannot get self-respect from being given a house, only through earning the house. You cannot get self-respect from living off charity, only by earning your own way. If the government thinks it's admirable to give people fish they stole from somebody else and use the education system to prevent people from ever going near a fishing rod, much less learning how to fish for themselves. Because then, heaven forbid, people might not need the government because they'll be independent. The government do more to promote mental illness, powerlessness, and despair than all the abusive parents of the world put together. So long as the government exists, the mental health industry will be thriving, with endless numbers of people with depression, anger management issues, and anxiety clamoring for drugs to numb the pain of their battered dignity. On top of this, the government exists independent of morality and is fundamentally tyrannical no matter the structure. If you think democracy isn't tyrannical, that is only because a democratic government passed laws forcing you to attend a school where a government-endorsed curriculum told you democracy wasn't tyrannical. How are you, a child, to argue with that if they never teach you grammar, logic, and rhetoric? Democracy is the belief that morality is somehow decided by popular opinion, by a vote, in the same way that 9 men might hold a vote to decide if they should rape the 1 woman in the house. If the majority agree, then gang rape is magically okay. Therefore, if 100 million women want to pass laws that enslave men financially to them via the family courts, then all they have to do is vote for it because women outnumber men in voting power. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Morality is not a matter of opinion. There's no place on earth where rape is celebrated. There's no time in history where thieves are praised. There's no consciousness out there in the universe who delights at being lied to. There's no world where people say, "Gosh darn, I'm so glad we have murderers out there." It doesn't matter how many people want to rape Jane, it's still wrong. It doesn't matter how many people want to rob Paul, it's still wrong. It doesn't matter how many people want to believe in a lie, it's still wrong. It doesn't matter how many people want to try murdering their way into utopia, it's still wrong. We live in a universe with laws of justice as sound and omnipresent as the laws of physics. If you like what the government are doing to other people that you don't like, It doesn't matter. It's still wrong to support people who are fundamentally crazy. You are just enabling their craziness by feeding their delusions of grandeur. Everywhere I hear people tell me they can't save themselves because the government has to do something about their problem for them. We need to vote again. We need to write to politicians. We need a higher power, the higher power of state government, to solve all our problems for us. No. No. You need to look after yourself. You need to support and protect yourself. You need to form alliances with other people. You need to support and protect your family members. You need to support and protect your friends. You need to support and protect your communities. And every time you put effort into trying to subvert the government to your interest, you are legitimizing it. It doesn't matter if you succeed or not. At the end of the day, you are affirming that you need government. You are saying, I don't need my family. I don't need my friends. I don't need my community because I have the government. All your problems can be solved, though, through actual real-life relationships with other people, especially your mental health problems. If you find loyalty, your anxiety will go away. If you find love, your depression will go away. If you find justice, your anger will go away. But the politicians lie when they say they're loyal to you. They lie when they say they love you. And they lie when they say they want justice. They're just weird, crazy people doing everything they can to normalize their craziness to you and to your children through the education system, brainwashing. And unlike morality, if everyone just stops believing in the divine right of government to rule, the government just simply ceases to exist. Yes, I know it's hard to have good friendships, good family relationships, and a good community because they don't think the same way that you do, because they don't believe the same things that you do. Well, you need to sort that out. You need to both get on the same page, and maybe you need to be more open-minded than you feel comfortable being. Tough. Suffering is good for the soul. Work your way through it and reach for the stars. Or as the Romans used to say, per spera ad astra.